Alrighty, what's up, guys? I just want to do a quick little devlog just to show you guys what I've been working on. Just started working on this game maybe like about a week and a half ago, something like that. And gotten to a point where I think I need to start working on a storyline or working on the storyline. And kind of the puzzles that you go through. It's a puzzle like RPG. Let me just show you guys. Alright, should be picking up now. Yeah, as you can see, this is, my little guy walking around. You can go up to things and interact. I've got doors set up that, transition you in between different rooms. So you can come over here, get a little flashlight, and got a little ball, which the ball I've got a tutorial for, as well as this dialogue system is also. But let's go through this door here, and let's go to our next little room. We've got this little creepy guy, and he disappears. I'm gonna turn on the lights. Got your battery life up here. This turns the light on and off. And as I said, this is this is when I was designing the dialogue engine. This is just some random text up here, just making sure everything worked okay. And I've got my little interaction queue there. Go back to our original room, and let's turn this off. Where's that little ball at? There it is. And then so I got like a little ball that rolls around, and then little light switch that only affects once. Some more dialogue stuff, and then a little light switch over here. Turn this on. Now I get a little ghost girl. Hey, and I've got some plans for her, but this is pretty much all I've got. Just the basics, the basics of being able to move around, and collisions and room changes and all that jazz. A little ball you can kick around. So that's pretty much the gist of all I have so far. So let's end that out. I guess I'll show you guys a little bit just behind the scenes. I just finished up doing the actual door transitions between rooms. So if I go in here, I've got a parent room that I use that's already got mostly like resolution, and it's got let me go to it. Got like all my layers and stuff that I want to use. Got my little particle layer, camera layer, different lights, and then I've got an init room as well, initiation room that creates everything. One thing I would highly suggest when you're developing games, especially in Gamemaker, is because typically when you have just an empty object that doesn't have a sprite, you just get a little question mark thing, and that's not good once you start getting really deep into the design. So like for instance, I got this is my music, just a little sprite, so I know, hey, like this is my music. I got my variables set up there. By the way, using variables makes your life 1,000 times easier when you're trying to design things for your rooms. I've got the light map. I'm actually using the FG. Let me see if I can get in here and look it up real quick. My library. The FG light. Yep, FG lighting right here. It's free. Vishnya Games. I highly recommend it. It's a great engine. It includes shadows and everything. I turned the shadows off because I just didn't really see the need to have them myself, but it's a really, really good lighting engine. I did not design the lighting engine myself because screw that. But anyway, so basically this is just kind of, like I said, the back end. I've got my little boxes here that I can set up. So basically for a lot of objects, if I want them to interact, I've got it set up to where I've got set interaction for a certain box. Like for instance, this box right here does not, I don't have an interaction set. I don't have a script or a dialogue that runs when it's interacted. And basically all the interaction, all that does is I just set a script, and it'll create this little where's it at? This little pop-up that you saw, and it's, you know, it does everything on its own. There, as far as if I've got a dialogue set up, you know, I can click the resource or whatever that I want, and once that interaction, that will pop up once I press the space bar, I send all this information from the box to the pop-up to the text box if I have a dialogue, or I run a script. I think this one's got a script, if I'm not mistaken. No, this one's got a dialogue as well. But I mean, even the dialogues, because and you can watch some of my other videos, or you can watch my other video about that. I've got this is the way I do my dialogue system. I've got it set up to where, you know, in the dialogue I can, you know, create that flashlight. Definitely something to keep in mind is keeping everything separate. Once this box has been, you know, say the boy or whatever, the little guy I've got here, once he comes up to that box, the box creates the pop-up. That's the last thing the box should handle. The pop-up then should handle, if you press space, you know, creating the text box, and then the text box handles everything. You want to keep everything separate from each other, so that way if you need to change one little thing, it doesn't screw up the whole system. You can just go into that one object. So for instance, like on my lights here, so I've got these light switches. I've got light switches set up. So the light on is equal to false. That just means the light switch is off. Light strength, that's depending on what light is attached to this. So I would, you know, I would select has lights, and whatever light is attached to this thing, this light switch, once the light is on, it's going to set the strength of that light to whatever. This one doesn't do anything, as you saw, and I've got an automatic dialogue script going here. I've got an automatic dialogue script that runs here if it's not doing anything. So if it doesn't have a light and it's triggered, which triggering is just a good way to keep so that you only initiate the interaction one time. But, you know, if those are set to false, then my light switch will automatically just be like, hey, there's nothing going on here. But if we look at this one, it does have lights. The light strength is 0.5, and then light on, I'm automatically setting it to on. And I've got both of these lights, which are separate, attached to that. So if I go into these lights here, I can go down here, light switch attached. And this is another thing too. What's nice is in Gamemaker, in the rooms, you can reset these names. See how this one's like instance, whatever, blah blah blah. You can set these names that you can only have one of these. It's kind of like an object name, an object resource. But that's why I always do whatever room it is, and then light switch 1, whatever. So I reset the name of this light switch, and then here I've just got a little expression set, and that tells this light, hey, get the value of this light switch if it's on or off. And then if it's on, set its strong, which is the strength of the light, to this light switch's strength. So that's just kind of a basic rule of thumb I've come to learn over the years, is you want to keep everything separate. Again, I've got this one set to that light switch. I could set this one also to this light switch as well. The way I'm designing the game, because I want these characters, whenever all the lights are off, to only appear then, and I'm only really gonna have like one light per room, really, or one light source, so like an overhead light basically per room. I don't really have it a need to set two different light switches, but I'm thinking, you know, maybe I'll add a plug or something later that I can have, so I can plug something in, and then that'll attach to that light switch or something. I don't know. This right here, this little red thing, this is just like a little spawn target, so I know whenever I come from my init room, since this is the first room I go to, I want my player to spawn there, just random. Now with the doors, the way I've got the doors set up is kind of in the same fashion, keeping everything separate. So I've got it if it's locked, if it's open already, but if it is locked, then I've got a key ID that I want to set. So like if I say in like room test 2, I create room test 2 key or whatever. So that's going to be a global object resource now. So I could go in here, set a key, and then I could come back to this room and say, okay, set that to room test 2 key or whatever, and then I just make it, you know, either once I grab it, it sets the player's key variable to the name of that variable or whatever, you know, the ID, and then, you know, I could go up there, but just keeping everything kind of separate from one another and using these variables to just go ahead and set everything for yourself. So I've also got interaction, which I don't have an interaction script or a dialogue that needs to go. Now if it was locked, I would set up a timeline, a dialogue script, like, hey, this door's locked, looks like it needs a brass key or something like that. Now I've got the room 2, which is the room that this door leads to, and then I've got where the player will spawn in the next room. So going to my door, the way I've got these doors set up, so I've got my door, and it's set to solid because I'm just reading everything that's solid for my main player. And then if you look on the door, how I've got it set up, so that way you can't enter it if it's closed. If I can find it here, yeah, is I've just got the box set up to the same amount that I'm going to be having the boundaries like up on the wall. So this bottom part right here on this black part, that's the bottom of my door. Just did a little bit of math to figure it out, but so that way if it's solid, that's going to be the collision box for the door. And so I've got it set, if it's open, you know, set our solid to false. That means you can walk through it. And if our player does walk through it and the player's Y is less than RY plus 32, I just did that so that way you pretty much almost instantly transfer to another room, and the player isn't already through it, so you only want to trigger this once. That's like, I could have used triggered or whatever, any variable. I just used player through. Set it to false at the beginning of the room. So if that's to false, we want to set that to true if there's a room to go to. And if there's a room to go to, I've got this object called room switch. So room switch handles the fade in, the fade out, and then as you can see, I was talking before about passing variables in. So the door's got the player new X on my room switch. I'm going to pass my player new X to the room switch's player 2X. So that way, the room switch, it just fades in. I've got it paused so that way the character can't move. Then if I do have a room to go to, which I'm setting here, then go to fade in's false, so I'm fading out. Fade out once it's completely black, go to the room and then set the fade in to true. So that means we're gonna subtract from our alpha. And then once that alpha is less than 0, we want to destroy our room switch object, turn pause off, and then at the room start, we're gonna set the player, if there's one that exists, to our player 2X, and then play the sound of the door closing. Which I'll probably move this actually to the door because of, like I said, you want to keep everything in its own realm. Keep everything doing only what it needs to do. So for instance, actually, I'll just do that right now because, yep. So right here, you can see I already had it. I had to change the actual sound of the door because it was too slow. But if our closing's false, so if at the beginning of our room, if our player's within a certain distance of the door, when the room starts, when this door is created, that means that we just came out of that door. Since that's how I'm going to be placing it. Every time you go through a door, you're going to come into a new room through a door. So if this is the door that you just came through, that means you're pretty close to it. Then we want to set closing to true, and that's going to go ahead and make sure the sprite of the door is already all the way open. We're going to set it to a negative image speed and then close it and play the door sound. So if if you go back, you can see how at the beginning of rooms you see that door shut, and obviously the solid is set to true by nature unless it's just already open. And as far as I got the interaction set for the door, so that way if you press space, if it's locked, then we'll create this dialogue and this interaction. But if it's not locked and it's open, then I've already got a script called script door open, and all that does, if I go to my interactions here, script door open, it just literally sets the image space to 1, sets open to true, and then plays the sound. And I mean, for the most part, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's pretty much the basics of, I guess, how I've got everything set up, interacting with itself, and whatnot. Oh, also animation, and I guess, sorry, I was trying to look for this, setting the solid to false. So if I'm not closing the door, if I'm opening the door, then you just set solid to false, and that way my player can walk through it, and then this can happen. Sorry. Anyway, yeah, so there's just a little update, I guess. I guess it's not really an update, but a debut, whatever. Just kind of the game I'm working on and how it looks, and the inner workings of it and whatnot. And just kind of what I've got so far. I'm going to be developing the story and a little bit more, and starting on some cutscenes and the puzzle elements to it pretty soon, because I've pretty much got most of everything that I need set up, besides as far as like basic stuff like going in between rooms, turning on and off lights and having characters appear, getting the flashlight, the dialogue system, collisions, all that stuff. I've got my little notes here and some credits, for different stuff, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So I guess I'll keep y'all updated, and appreciate y'all. Thanks.